Welcome to Lockbox, a podcast providing real estate professionals with action items for success. My name is Jeffrey Brogger, and I'm going to be your host. I'm the founder of two real estate marketing and tech companies, STEEZY.Digital and realnurture.io. In this podcast, you'll learn from top 1% real estate and mortgage brokers the exact secrets to their success. Welcome to Lockbox. Welcome to Lockbox. My name is Jeffrey Brogger, and I am here today with Conrad Neufeldt. Conrad, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So start it off, tell our listeners who you are, where you're from.
So my name is Conrad Neufeldt, and I am from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, which is smack dab in the middle of Canada.
And you were just saying before the podcast that it's negative 42 degrees out there. Is that true?
It's a bit cold. Yeah. Last night was, I think, minus 51. And this morning it was minus 42 with the wind chill, right? So there's something to be said there. But yeah, it's cold.
And we're talking
it's cold.
Fahrenheit, right?
Well, and that's the thing is it doesn't matter. It's actually when you hit minus 40,
oh, that's right.
and Celsius are equal. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
So it's cold no matter whether it's Celsius or Fahrenheit.
Super cold. Yeah.
You don't go outside. Like you huddle in your small YouTube studio and just
and just make videos.
Videos because you can't do anything else.
Yeah. That's awesome. So I'm curious, what got you into the real estate industry? Like, what was your first exposure to the power of real estate?
So this is like, I've been in it almost 10 years now, but I had graduated from university when I was 21 in business. So I had graduated with my honors in business, and I had taken the highest paying job I could. So, I'm just newly graduate, I'm making six figures, big deal. Ooh, so proud of myself kind of thing. And for the next 3 years, I received something like 34 job offers in that 3-year period. And I was miserable. So I was making a ton of money. I had a ton of job offers, and I was just completely miserable. And I just kept turning down all these new job offers because I'm like, it's just, a different rung on the same ladder. And like, what the hell else am I going to do? Right. And it was a sales job. So whatever. And then it was in my, the end of my third year that I started buying a house, and I went with my wife. We were going to buy our second house at the time. Actually, we were moving out because our family was growing and we wanted to expand, our footprint a bit. And we were talking to the mortgage broker, and she's like, man, you'd be really good at this. Like, you'll already know more than like most mortgage brokers, right? Because, you have your schooling background or whatever, like you should do mortgage brokering. And I was like, what is this? And so then she walked me through it, and yeah, I was sold. And so I left my 6-figure salary, and that next year made a whopping $18,000.
Amazing. And you left your 9-to-5 to work 24/7.
It was long hours. Yeah. So I questioned my sanity a lot. My wife questioned my decision-making a lot that first year, but it worked out. So it was okay.
Yeah. So then now today, I'm curious about your transaction volume to kind of give my listeners some context. And then I have some follow-up questions.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the top 10% in Canada. So I broker nationally, and yeah, I do quite well for myself. I make a paycheck. That's
you made more than $18,000 last year.
Made more. That's the key part. Yeah, is I can now pay the mortgage that I've got.
Progress.
Right?
Yeah.
But, yeah. The plan though is, I'd like to be in the top 1%, but I got some growing to do before I get there.
Absolutely. So when it comes to, being a mortgage loan officer and being in that space, being, amongst the sea of the 90% that haven't broken into that top 10%, what is some advice that you could give to MLOs out there that are listening? And, what should they be focusing on? And then maybe what should they ignore?
Actually, I like that question a lot, particularly the ignore part, because I think, especially when you're self-employed, there are a lot of different, carrots and like shiny objects that you can chase. And you can always find yourself, chasing after the next shiny object without actually like concentrating on one. I don't know if you're familiar with the book Essentialism by Greg McKeown. Are you familiar with that one?
I'm not, no.
He talks about kind of like the power of no, and how most people are successful not by what they pursue, but what they choose not to pursue. Right. Ooh. And that's why I like your thing about what you should ignore, because there's way more things that you should ignore and not do than there are that you should do. Right. And I think a lot of people, when they first start out, and I know this because I'm guilty of it. I still see like all of the people that we see when they first start guilty of it as well, is they'll start making calls to realtors, looking for referral partners. They'll start calling FSBOs, trying to hope that they can, like that's for sale by owners, hoping that they can try to get their business for their next purchase. You'll see, them, calling just random people. Like they'll do a lot of things and they'll chase a lot of things. They'll never actually devote themselves to truly trying one method first and seeing if that's what's going to make them successful. Because what makes one person successful isn't necessarily what's going to make the next or the next or the next. Like I know some agents who, rock realtors, and they've got like a dozen realtors that just send them a constant influx of business. And realtors are less than 10% of our referrals, right? So like complete opposite, right? So if I were to waste my time calling realtors, they may or may not send me stuff because that's not where I've had my best success. So it's focusing on the one thing and not pursuing a million things, right? And I think being present on social media, start that right from day one and getting comfortable and familiar with that. And while that may not work for everyone, it works for more reasons than just pursuing business with people you don't know. It works for pursuing business with people you do know. Because here's a story. When I first started, it was like 6 months into me being a mortgage broker, and I'm sitting by my phone waiting for it to ring, so to speak. And then I saw on Facebook, because Facebook was relatively new at the time, right? And I saw on Facebook that this friend of mine had bought a house. And I was like, what the F? What? Like, you didn't go through me. Like, what are you doing, buddy? So I called him up and I was like, I saw you bought a house. Like, why didn't you use me as a mortgage broker? The words out of his mouth, I'm like, sorry, dude, totally forgot you were a mortgage broker. And that's when like the light kind of clicked, where I was like, okay, like people need to know what you're doing. And if people have no clue that what you do, like don't be salesy and be like walking down the street handing out business cards. That's not going to be, helpful to you, but make sure people know what you do. Right. And so one of the easiest ways to do that is just stay consistent on Facebook, and, don't have 100% of your posts be about, mortgage brokering or mortgage loans or real estate or whatever. Put in a mix of family, put in a mix of that, because for two reasons. One, if you're all business, I'm pretty sure the Facebook algorithm hates you and then just like buries you. And then even if you were successful though, and all of your people see you promoting your stuff constantly, eventually they drone you out too, because more often than not, people want a loan from someone they trust. And there's a relationship component to that, right? So if they see that, you're with your kids or you're with your spouse or your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever the hell it may be, and they feel like they can connect to you on a personal level, your chance of closing that business is way higher. Absolutely.
Nailed it. And I love the focus on social media because I own a digital marketing agency. And
there you go.
I'm with you every step of the way in what you just described. And I could actually explain why Facebook doesn't like you constantly promoting everything 100%
so why
business.
Is that? Because I've had that.
But we don't have time for that today.
Oh, damn it, no.
No, I will explain. So
for the low price of $39.99.
Yes, go to this link. Yeah.
What is it though?
The reason is, think about the fundamental reason why human beings value and join platforms like Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, it's the social.
Instagram is a photo sharing app.
Yeah.
Facebook is a social network for your friends and family. They want to go on there, human beings that are these people we're trying to target with business. They want to go on there to catch up on their own personal newsfeed. Facebook even calls it a newsfeed, right? Yep. It's their own personal newsfeed based on what's going on with their friends and their family, right? Now, the way that Facebook monetized that was by injecting businesses into that newsfeed as advertisers, or human beings could follow a business page and then start to see their stuff in their feed. Well, the problem is businesses then saw the power and the inexpensive ability to create ads and create content and directly connect with consumers. So they flooded news feeds, which then were diluted. They didn't have as many friends and family photos and videos. They had, if it was previously 10-1, 10 friends and family pictures and videos, and then one business. Now it's 1-1. Every other friggin' thing is, oh my gosh, this business, that business, that business, that business. This business posted 3 times today. I'm seeing all of it. So then it killed engagement rate. So they had to shift their algorithm to limit the page reach on Facebook as a business page.
There you go.
also to track on a engagement basis based on your historical previous content, how many likes, comments, shares are happening on a personal page post. Because everyone knows that there's a personal page that you start with your Facebook, and then there's a business page, right? But they saw that even when they limited business pages, personal pages were getting abused. People were setting up personal pages for business use, posting a ton, and still flooding inboxes. So they started to see
Wait, you're not supposed to do that? Shit, I got to cancel that. I'm just kidding.
Right. Well, Facebook figured it out. I mean, the engineers at Facebook, Google, and all these are like the smartest people in the world that are like working there. So they figured out like little hacks that people were doing. And then they said, well, why don't we create an algorithm that says if people are annoying their following and there's less and less engagement, we'll just penalize their reach.
There you go. That makes sense.
Yeah. So that's the current world we live in, is that you have to create high quality content that people engage with. Otherwise, you just get your reach limited massively. And that's why certain things go viral, because when it's sensational based on historic data, and this is 10 times the engagement, likes, follows, especially shares. That's like the biggest upvote on Facebook's algorithm and Instagram.
Oh, interesting.
When people are sharing or sending it in DMs, that's the highest upvote, and that's how things go viral. You don't have to have a huge account, but if you create something that's on point, sensational, widespread acceptance and engagement, boom, it explodes, right? So
that is super cool. See, and I like when I went through university, I specialized in like business and marketing, right? And I actually wrote a whole honors thesis, like it was a year-long research on the efficacies of branded fan pages on Facebook and like the efficacy and saliency of that. And of course, but that's like 10 years ago now, right? Or I guess more than 12, 13 years ago now. Like Facebook was brand new. So it's evolved quite a bit since my research days on it. So it's cool to see that evolution. It makes sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, back in the day, branded pages used to have like the exact same reach as a personal page.
Back then it was awesome.
It was awesome. But
now you gotta pony up.
Yeah. Now you gotta pay for those ads and go through an agency like mine.
But like I said, like if you're on social media, there is a strategy, but you have to be consistent. And so it's, I'd almost be interested in talking to you later, because there's the reality is it takes a lot of time to manage your social media presences properly. And unless you have a team, you can't do them all. Like it's easy to start and be like, oh, I'm going to be on TikTok and I'm going to be on Instagram and I'm going to be on Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube. And by the time you're done, like listing them all, you're just like, you're full-time social media and like, you're not writing a single loan. Right, exactly. And then people get caught in this wheel and this happens to, I think, almost every loan officer. They get caught in this wheel where they go out and they generate a bunch of leads, and then they end up spending all their time working those leads. And then no new leads are coming in because they're not prospecting anymore. They're spending all their time closing the ones that they have. And they're like, oh no, I have no leads. So they prospect. And then they get more leads and then they have to work them. And then it's just a cycle that keeps going on and on and on and on. And then it's very difficult to grow a business that way until you can break that cycle and actually have people coordinated to do both sides of that. Yep.
Darren Hardy calls it the entrepreneurial roller coaster. Anyone who's ever done sales, anyone who's ever done sales has experienced that exact same process that you're mentioning. I'm doing prospecting and lead generation, and then I got to respond and follow up to these leads now, and so then they stop prospecting and doing lead generation, right?
100%.
And what happens? They close some deals, their income goes up, they're comfortable for a while, they have nothing in the pipeline, and their income goes back down. They get desperate, they do the process again. So
it's a shitty roller coaster.
Shitty roller coaster to be on. Everyone's experienced it. What way can you escape this roller coaster? Well, you have to have a system in place.
You do.
And that's really what my agency helps real estate professionals and mortgage loan officers with, is creating a consistent prospecting machine that's constantly putting top of funnel opportunities in, helping to nurture, follow up during that middle phase, because real estate is a long deal cycle, right? So we need different systems in place to help nurture and tee up that appointment or that phone call when they're ready. And then we also need to help retain, right? That's the final step. Once you close them, well, now let's have that one deal have babies and retain them and have 5 deals over the next 25 years through referrals.
That right there is so underestimated. So,
absolutely.
Like, there's a stat that I saw that said that 82%, and this is a Canadian stat, so I can't speak to Americans. Maybe it could be different, but I saw that 82% of Canadian mortgage brokers and banks don't talk to their clients once. Or 82% of them only talk to them once or 0 times between now and renewal. And that once is at renewal. So 82% of them at most are contacting them. It's like, hey, your mortgage is up for renewal. It's like, cool. And who are you again? Like, it's been 5 years or like 7 years or 10 years. Like, who are you? Right. So that blows my mind. So yeah, I mean, and then people are wondering why they don't get referrals, right? From past clients. It's like, well, have you talked to John?
You don't have a system in place.
Have you talked to Susan or Omar? Like you've talked
if you're not doing it, of course they don't, no one's doing it.
You are. Yeah. Like they're not going to do it for you. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like no one cares about whether you make money or not more than you do. So,
right. So speaking of retention and referrals, I'm curious what your percentage of referrals are to new business. Do you have that percentage in mind, like a ballpark?
When you say referrals to new business, you're saying the amount of like past clients that are referring?
Yes. Not agent referrals. So I should rephrase that.
Yeah.
A referral from an existing client that says my brother needs a loan, or a previous client that says I want to refi, or I have a new purchase. Like, what's your percentage of existing like sphere of influence and those immediate referrals as opposed to new business?
I haven't done because we keep track of this. I haven't done the math yet for 2021. It's still too early in the year in 2022 to do that. We're usually done that stat by end of January. I know that in 2019, it was 82%. And I have a feeling that it's going to be somewhere close to that in 2020. 82% and we've been able to like double our business.
Was repeat
referrals.
Business.
Past clients. Yeah. No, past clients referring us to somebody else. Yeah.
There you go.
Which is huge. It's a big percentage.
Massive percentage. So what systems do you have in place to increase those amount of referrals that you get?
Oh, we're archaic. We've gone through so many different systems, to be honest. The simplest ones, though, like we set up some kind of CRM, right, that notifies us, when someone needs a reach out. But typically, we try to talk to everybody about 6 months, like 1 to 2 times a year. So every 6 months or so, we try to reach out. It doesn't always play out that way, but we try to make sure that they're as organic and as genuine as possible. And I think that's the biggest piece of advice I could give on that. Like if someone gets the sense that you're reaching out to them like hey, remember what I do? Got anybody to refer me? I mean, that gets old pretty quickly. And then people just like, okay, you're coming to the same cow to be milked again. Like, it's like, get out of here. It seems so insincere, right? Like I love my insurance guy to death, for instance. And every fucking year he sends me a balloon in the mail. And is like, hey, happy birthday. And then like his business card. And I'm just like, come on, dude. Like, that's like the lamest, tackiest thing ever. I guess I'm talking about him now, so maybe that's great. But like, I've never referred the guy once. So I guess maybe not so much, right? Whereas like, if you call someone up and you're like, dude, you fell from a roof like 4 months ago. How's your recovery doing? Like, and you actually take a genuine interest, or, you were pregnant the last time we talked. Do you have a new one, right? Like you take a genuine interest in that person's life. It's okay that you don't talk about mortgages. It's okay that you don't talk about real estate once in that 15 to 20 minute call, because that's not what the call is about. The call is about a genuine interest and a genuine connection with that person. Don't force it. Like there's certain clients that we never call, and it's because we probably didn't like them, right? And so, they probably didn't like us either in that case, right? Like if you're abrasive and I just have no desire to deal with you, then I'm probably not going to call you, because your friends are probably equally like you. And in which case that's okay. I'm not missing out. It sounds bad, but it's the case, right? So, I like to work with the people that I work with, and therefore those calls aren't work, right? It's like, hey, how's it going? How's life, right? How's the new home, right? What's changed? We did the refinance because you were renovating a bathroom. You got before and after pics. I love to see those, right? And I do genuinely love to see those. So I think that's the part there, is having a genuine interest and following up regularly enough. And then at those times, you might call someone for a year and a half, let's call it 3 calls, right? And it could be 2 years from now that they go, hey, I got this guy, right? My sister's buying. We thought of you. Well, of course they thought of you. They consider you their friend, and you consider them your friend. Of course they thought of you, right? They didn't think of, sending them to their bank or their whatever, right? Because they built the relationship with you. And, in our industry, particularly when you're dealing with their largest asset and their largest debt, their mortgage, trust is massive. Like if you don't have their trust, the odds of you closing them time and time again is low. Like you have to have their trust. And like I said, that doesn't mean that you need to be talking about, I mean, they have to believe and trust in the sense that you know what you're talking about. If they don't feel like you know what you're talking about, you could be the best guy and like the friendliest guy in the world, and you're still screwed. You're not closing their business. They still have to know you know what you're talking about, but they have to know you and trust you on a personal level, that they act like you actually have their best interest at heart, that you're not treating them just like some other transaction, that you're actually genuinely interested in their well-being.
Yep. And the trust factor is why referrals are so great, because when your brother or your sister or your best friend refers you to some business or something along those lines, some other service provider that they themselves have used, they say, oh, you got to go use them. They're the best. That's everything. That one line right there
massive.
Is everything. And so my understanding of that came from when I was at Cutco, because everyone thinks, everyone from the outside thinks Cutco is door to door. I never cold knocked a single door.
Yeah.
The whole Cutco process is based on referrals, and their referral approach was incredible. What you would do is you'd start in training with your, aunts, uncles, people you already knew. And, from my experience, none of them bought the first time around, actually. They were very hesitant, thought it was like a pyramid scheme.
Right, for sure, yeah.
I went 0 for 13.
Yeah.
But in every single no sale, I generated 5 to 15 referrals.
Oh, yeah.
And then from there, it branched out. For 6 years, I had more business than I ever knew what to do with. I have sheets of referral lists that I've never called because I didn't have time. And that concept was really ingrained in me through that experience. Then when I got into marketing, I had to think about the online lead that is 100% cold and doesn't trust my client at all. They don't even know my client.
So much tougher. Yeah, so much tougher.
So totally different, right?
Yeah.
And so for 5 years, I've been mastering how to bridge that gap and how to tee up that sales call or that appointment for my client to where the first response from the lead isn't, who are you? Who is this? Why are you calling me?
I didn't fill out a form. It's like, no, but your wife did.
Yeah. So we've it's a constantly evolving process, but we figured it out, and it's gosh, there's so much that goes into it. But
I will say that's actually incredibly important too, because there's only so much you can grow your business, right, relying on past referrals, right? Mm-hmm. Like every time you get a new client, there's a potential there that they might refer you to any number of people, right? So the more and more clients you can feed into that pool, the more you can refer, the bigger your pool grows, the more you can grow from year to year, right? But if you have some outside source, right, which is why it's not 100% of our business, it's only like 80% of our business that is from these referral sources. If you can get some outside source that can feed leads into your pool and convert them from different social groups that you're not already a part of, I mean, that's a really powerful way of growing your business. So I don't think you should ever rely on just like one or the other, but I mean, you need both, but you focus first on, I would say, like the referrals that you do have. But if you're just starting, you have nobody.
I agree.
So
true, but also I agree. I've had new agents come to me, and typically my agency really focuses on helping top 1% real estate and mortgage brokers because they already have great systems in place. And
so they're trying to feed the pool.
Yeah, exactly. I can enhance that with cold outreach to people in their market that don't know them yet.
For sure.
And on platforms they aren't currently advertising on yet effectively. So that's where my system really takes off. But if you're a brand new agent, and I'm going to give you, 100 leads a month the next 3 months, and you're going to blow it on all of them, you're not going to get ROI, right? But what you should be doing, and I've said this to multiple, right? I've said this to multiple agents who have reached out to me, and they've heard of my success in their market with some top broker, and they're like, hey, I'm willing to pay. Let's do this. I'm like, you're in your first year, and we could start this, but it's kind of my fiduciary responsibility to make sure you're actually going to get ROI from this. So I would like you to first listen to your broker and organize your phone list into a database, call through them, and ask if they would use you for a real estate transaction, and then categorize them. Simple process. But now all of a sudden you have 100 people that said, yeah, sure, I'd use you, and X amount that wouldn't. Focus on those 100. Go close a couple deals, right? And once you've then closed a couple deals, you're in year 2. Now let's talk, right? So
yeah. Well, in the inexperience, like, and it's funny because you're like, well, I'm a sales guy. I can close deals and stuff like that. Well, we've done online leads and stuff like that ourselves before. They are much harder to manage, as you'd expect, because they are cold, right? Like they don't know you from a hole in the ground. And then that's where like there's some cultural differences that come into play too, because like Canada is a melting pot. Like we have cultures from all over, and like their understanding of the mortgage process and their behavior during the mortgage process can sometimes be fundamentally different. And if you're not taking that into consideration, or you don't know who you're dealing with on the other end of the phone, that can be hard.
And I can explain to you as well why having a sales conversation with a cold lead doesn't work. Are you interested in that?
100%.
All right. We figured this out through our journey. So we realized that if we tee up a cold internet lead to a salesperson, aka real estate agent, mortgage loan officer, and we instruct them speed to lead, got a call within 5 minutes, got to get right on them, right? And they do that. They actually call and get in touch with this lead and they have a conversation. Here's the dynamic that is off. The lead is typically somewhere between 3 and 12 months out or longer. And they're kind of like at the beginning of their stage. Mm-hmm. The sales professional on the other end of the phone is asking questions to nail them down right now.
Right.
Fundamental disconnect.
Yeah.
And when you get when you get a referral, when someone says, "Hey, you got to use, Conrad because he's the best MLO around," that typically spawns from a conversation that's more bottom funnel. That's because they're talking about, we're thinking about refining, we're going to do it in the next couple months. Oh, call Conrad. So you can have that nailed down conversation, plus there's trust, and it works. But you can't have that conversation with top funnel leads that don't trust you. So what we've realized is there needs to be an intermediary, and commonly in the industry now they're called ISAs.
Okay.
And an ISA is an inside sales agent or sales assistant that fields that cold lead and is curious and inquisitive and not trying to nail them down and just wants to hear them out and have a text conversation and where do you want to live? 3
bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, like that kind of style?
Absolutely. And more. Yeah. And, what's important to you in this? Like, and just kind of chatting away while having their script of information they need, right? We either need, this purchase information for a loan or this refi information or this.
But you're sneaking the questions in rather than like this laundry list.
Yes. And you're not trying to like nail them down right this second, right now, and saying like, oh, well, let's get you pre-approved right now. What's your social?
Interesting. That is interesting.
So then once the lead is a little bit more receptive, warmed up, they've had a long conversation, they've been on the phone 20 minutes or whatever. Okay, awesome. Hey, let's, they're asking questions that, number one, an unlicensed ISA can't answer. That's when, we make that transfer, like specific questions about valuations of properties. Oh, hey, the agent's going to know more about that. I'm going to transfer you over, And now that intermediary changes the game. Now the agent can actually have that conversation with them about, cool, let's go meet up at this property today. They can sign a buyer broker agreement or listing agreement, whatever.
That. Yeah, that's smart.
It's totally different experience and my clients love it way more because they're not having to learn this new process of being on the phone with online leads that don't trust them. They only talk to people when they're ready.
So then random question, do you guys have the ISAs on your side of the fence then? Like, is that part of your team?
Yeah,
that's cool.
We took that in-house because we're like, you know what? We need to, here's the gap in the service that we're offering. So let's solve it.
Well, and then you don't have to worry about, anytime, an assistant on the real estate agent's side falls apart or whatever, and they quit or they move away. You don't have to worry about retraining them because it's all done on your side. They just literally have to pick up the phone and deal with. That's a smart way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and we've found that the ROI has increased significantly from that. So then it's like, oh, cool. Our clients are staying longer. Awesome. It's a win-win.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
Thank you. So yeah, that's the reason that the system, that we've developed now works, but everyone wants that like warm handoff referral lead that's a laydown, and it's not all leads are the same. So
yeah, well, and even then, even if they were a laydown, you still have to treat them somewhat differently, right? Because it is still an online lead who they don't know who you are, and there's a different way of having those conversations. But yeah,
and that's what I'm saying is, it's everyone wants an online lead to be a referral.
Oh yeah, right.
But they're different. So
in a perfect world, they would be.
That's right. So I am curious about some of your entrepreneurial habits. And this podcast is really about the action items for success from top, real estate, mortgage brokers. So I'm curious, what's the single most important action that you take on a daily basis that attributes most to your success?
Oh, you're going to find this one boring. This is as vanilla as it gets. Daily planning. It's as boring as it sounds. Like, I know where I want to be when I'm 40. I'm 34 right now. I know where I want to be where I'm 40. Right. So I got my long term, right? I know what I want to accomplish this year in order to get to that plan for when I'm 40. So I know what I have to accomplish this year. But every single day I wake up and I'm like, how can I get like 1% closer to my end goal? How do I get 1% closer? What do I need to do today in order to be able to get to where I want to go? Right. And when you break it down that narrow and that small, and then the key part is writing it on a piece of paper. I've done so many things where I've put it down like in a computer or on Google Calendar or whatever. And that works. I mean, that it helps, or at the very least. But I found that, and it was actually a mentor of mine that recommended it to me, is like, anything that gets written down gets done. And so I was like, okay. And so I would take a sticky note, and I would, like, every morning I write down with the thing that I want, like one or two things, not 17, one or two. Like, if you can accomplish these two things or this one thing, it doesn't matter what you do with the rest of your day, because it's a success. Right. And that becomes your focus. And I put that on my monitor and I just go ahead and do it. Right. And then as long as you do that 1%, you're fine.
That's awesome. I love that. And I smiled when you said planning, because when I asked that question so many times, the answer is planning.
Yeah, it is though. Because if you don't, like, what's the saying? If you don't plan to fit, or if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Right.
That's right.
Like, it is. It's, like I said, it's boring. It's vanilla. It's not exciting. There's many things we could talk about that is exciting, but that is going to be the single most predictor of your success. Because if you're not shooting or you can't shoot where you don't aim, right?
That's right. So where do you think the industry's heading next, like 5-10 years? What's your crystal ball say?
Well, I mean, let's be serious. We've seen in the last few years a total commoditization of mortgages. And I think real estate is not too far behind as a whole. I mean, it's already a commodity in a lot of senses, but I mean, I think we're seeing an even greater commoditization of it. I mean, it would be, I don't know the time frame on it, but it would be delusional to think that at some point computers couldn't do most, if not all, of what a mortgage broker does, right? I mean, computers are already powerful enough to solve complex equations far greater than this. Why I don't think that's happened yet is because of the relationship component, right? Yeah, an algorithm can spit it out, but if you talk to me, a guy you trust, versus some computer algorithm that just spit out a number, you're probably going to end up closing with me rather than that computer system, right? But I mean, you look at, like, what is it, Rocket Mortgage out in the States, that's really trying to make a big push, and they've had a lot of success, right? But there's a reason why even they have individuals who make the call, right? Because even though a computer theoretically could do it, you still need that person. Now, I do think that you're going to see a more bionic, or a hybrid approach, I should say, as time goes on. I mean, we already use computers for all sorts of things, from like file submissions to, I mean, there was, what was it, 15 years ago, you had to submit all your mortgage applications in paper, right? Now it's all computer. So I think what you'll see now is automated commitments. I think that will be the next big step, where once you collect all the information and you decide which route you're going to go, you press a button and everything is auto adjudicated. And you've got a commitment that you can put in front of your clients right then and there that they can e-sign. I think that's going to be the next big breakthrough. And I only think that's like 3-5 years away. Right. And if that's the case, a lot of these online players are going to skyrocket. And, the mortgage brokers that don't have solid relationships, I think, are going to struggle the most.
I think that's a wise prediction. And
we'll see.
The relationships are always what it comes down to when you're talking about man versus machine, right?
Yeah.
Can't have a relationship with a machine. No,
you can't.
Not yet, at least. So,
but at least I'm sure there's countries out there working on it. But I will say this, that's, I think, where social media also plays another role, because perception is often reality for a lot of people, right? I mean, we know real estate very, very well, but we often forget that not everybody does, right? Like for some people, this is a black box, right? And they do have questions, and they do, and some might pay a higher rate for that. Not everyone, but some might, right? So even if computers do take over, they'll still want to know that they're getting the perfect advice or whatever, right? And I mean, even look at accounting, right? Theoretically, anyone could get their taxes done through a computer, through digital, like some of the digital stuff. They put their own information in, and like, what is it? Intuit, QuickBooks can do it for you, or whatever it is, right? QuickTax. And yet there's still accountants doing personal taxes. Why? Well, because there's sometimes situations that are more complex, or people want to rely on the results that are being put in there and not feel like they're getting some generic result. So I don't think humans are going away.
Right.
Not at least in the next 10 years, but their role and their value might change.
Yeah, I agree. Let's bring it back to social media, because something that you mentioned was that there's this law of familiarity. And what I mean by that is when you're in an industry, you are kind of, immune to the subtleties of the things that you already understand.
Right. Yes.
And then your communication ends up being jargon, and the ways that you're explaining things are not ways that a layman would understand.
Right.
So I've found that the best way to consistently create content on social media and have it be extremely easy, not take you extra time to have to plan and craft, is by documenting what you do.
Oh, interesting.
You don't have to create. And Gary Vee says this, you just document, right?
Yep.
You're doing a little powwow with one of your team members, have a phone on a tripod in the corner for an Instagram reel and put it out there. And they'll show how, you were taking care of this client. Obviously keep client information, anonymous, and don't say like names or social security numbers on social media.
John Smith, social insurance number, blah, 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 needs this.
Exactly. But you can show how you solved this problem at the office, trained somebody, helped a client, and it can all be captured while you're doing it. You don't have to set time aside to do it.
You know what I've done in the past? I've tried explaining it to my children. Like when I deal with something complex, I'm like, how would I explain that to my child? And I know that and that's not talking down to anybody. It's just when you can think through a process and what you have to say, and you start asking all the questions, and you truly ask your child, hey, what do you think? Like, what is a mortgage? It's like, oh, mortgage is this. Well, where's the rest of the money? Well, that's a down payment. What's a down payment? And all of a sudden, all of these things that you took for granted, you realize, oh crap, like there's like all this information. And then what I found really amazing is you take those little nuggets that these 7-year-old or the 9-year-old found like absolutely amazing, and you put it out there. And even though it's simple to you, just a ton of feedback on it, right? Because it's like, hey, that was so interesting that you said that. It's like, oh, that wasn't common knowledge. I thought it was, right?
That's right. Law of familiarity. Don't overlook it. So
that's true though.
A copywriting trick. Copywriters are ad writers, right? They used to be bigger back in the Mad Men days, Madison Avenue in New York and stuff.
Nice
Copywriting is still important today. And that's one of the strengths of my agency, is having effective copywriting in our ads. Copy, there's a trick, and it's so simple. It's actually pretty much what you just mentioned. There's this website that reads your copy and tells you if an 8th grader could understand it.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's true though. Like effective communication, if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, then you probably don't know the topic as well as you think you do. Right?
Absolutely.
Simply put, like if you can't break it down simple enough that a 5-year-old can understand it, you're probably not the expert you thought you were.
Right.
Which is okay, because that means that that's an opportunity for you to learn and how to grow.
Yeah. There's that Mark Twain quote. I wrote you a long letter because I didn't have time to write a short one. Time for a
short one. Yeah, 100%. There's truth to it.
Yep, absolutely. So is there a question I should have asked you, or anything that you'd like to expand upon from earlier?
A question that I should have asked? No, because you touched on referrals. That's the number one. Oddly enough, like what I've done quite a few podcasts, and that question rarely gets asked. Like they try to focus on like the algorithms. They try to focus on all sorts of other stuff, because we had written algorithms and stuff like that in the past that like allowed us to determine which clients fit into which boxes, and using computers, right?
That's cool.
But so many people just miss out on the simplicity of it. You don't need big whirring computers. You don't need the sophisticated, referral strategy. You don't need You just need to call. You just need to email. Just need to have a genuine connection. And then to not forget your social media presence, because even if you have all of those things, people can forget about you, right?
Yeah.
So just remind them in a non-douchey way.
Title of the podcast.
But it's true. Like, just don't, like, nobody wants to be that guy, or at least nobody wants to do business with that guy,
Mm-hmm.
So don't be a douche.
I love it. Well, how can listeners contact you?
My YouTube channel is a great way. And then, I don't know, maybe I can provide you with my email and they can just reach out. I got a work email they can send questions to if they have some.
Sure. I'll link to both of them below, but go ahead and say it.
Awesome. So the YouTube channel is actually just my name. So it's Conrad Neufeldt. And then my email is mortgages@conradneufeld.ca.
Easy.
Right
Conrad Neufeldt, everyone. He is out in Canada trying to stay alive in negative 50-degree weather, and in the top 10%, trying to reach that top 1% spot. So he's doing some big things out there in Canada, and I really appreciate having you on. Just taking the time to have some fun, share your secrets, and really appreciate it. So thank you, Conrad.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening. If you want to accomplish your real estate goals, then I highly suggest downloading my free Ultimate Real Estate Goal Setting Framework. The link is in the description of the show, and it will help you break down your annual income goal into the amount of phone calls, appointments, or open houses you need in order to achieve that goal. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.